Discover how an accidental encounter at a billionaire's table changed a cleaner's life forever. Clara paused, her broom resting against her side as she took in the massive chandeliers that hung from the vaulted ceilings of the grand mansion. It was hauntingly beautiful, with remnants from a charity gala scattered like fallen leaves after a storm. She had long come to terms with her life as a cleaner in a prestigious law firm. But on nights like this, the lavishness around her felt like an unscalable wall. Her dreams of pursuing law lay buried beneath layers of self-doubt and stigma, the weight of her occupation pressing heavily against her heart. Just as she brushed confetti off a polished table, her elbow knocked against a tall figure. Startled, Clara looked up and met the curious gaze of Jonathan, a well-known philanthropist cloaked in an aura of wealth. His eyes, however, were troubled, a hint of disillusionment flickering beneath his polished exterior. For a heartbeat, the world around them faded, leaving only the two of them standing amidst shattered dreams and whispered hopes. "Sorry," she stammered, heat rising to her cheeks, shame mingling with surprise. Why did it always feel like a crime to be anything less than extraordinary? "You're not the one who should be sorry," he replied, his voice a mix of curiosity and empathy. "What brings you here?" "I clean," Clara whispered, self-conscious. The words felt heavy in the air, a blatant reminder of her perceived inadequacies. Yet as they spoke, something inside her bubbled forth, a long-buried ambition to study law. "I want to be a lawyer," she finally said, surprising both herself and Jonathan. He glanced at her, taken aback. "You?" "Yes, me," she replied, layers of tension unraveling with each word. They exchanged glances, understanding forming an unspoken bond between them. Jonathan's interest in her was palpable, admiration flickering in the depths of his eyes. How was it possible that a man like him could see worth in someone like her? The thrill of sharing her aspiration was eclipsed by another thought, gnawing at her stomach like a persistent hunger. Would they ever accept her? Her neighbors saw only the title of cleaner attached to her name, their judgment as sharp as the rain piercing the window panes. She had faced whispers, not seeing her, but her job's stigma. "You shouldn't be here," they'd say with pointed looks. She felt that weight now, a looming specter that haunted every step she took toward her dreams. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jonathan's sudden support felt both exhilarating and terrifying. He became her mentor, crafting a scholarship application with her through late-night conversations and endless cups of coffee, as dreams started to shift from fantasy to potential reality. But doubts lingered. As Clara's hard work began to bear fruit, acceptance into the esteemed program shadowed her nerves, igniting tensions with her family, who had always painted her aspirations with strokes of practicality. Why should they believe in her when she barely believed in herself? The whispers followed her as she navigated both her hometown and Jonathan's elite circles, amplified by suspicious glances and condescending smiles. Clara felt the tightening grip of anxiety claw deeper into her mind, each step feeling heavier than the last. Would she crumble under scrutiny, her dreams misunderstood and belittled by those she thought mattered? As the day of acceptance approached, old ghosts resurfaced. Self-doubt and the fear of disappointing loved ones clawed at her, threatening to drown her voice. And then the confrontation came, cruel and cutting. Clara faced her critics, their words slicing through her fragile confidence, leaving her reeling. In that moment of despair, she caught herself reflecting on everything she had endured, and what lay ahead. Remembering her secret dreams, she mustered the fierce resolve she didn't know she had. Would she hold her ground against the judgment of society and her family? As she began to prepare for her momentous first day at university, the looming question grew louder in her mind. Could she validate her worth in a world that seemed poised against her? Clara's heart raced as she approached her first day at university, anticipation mixing with anxiety in a tumultuous whirlpool of emotions. The sprawling campus loomed ahead, filled with laughter and clusters of students mingling, their conversations a cacophony of excitement and ambition. She had long dreamed of this moment, yet as she walked through the gates, reality gnawed at her confidence. Despite Jonathan's encouragement, doubt lurked in the corners of her mind, whispering of her inadequacies. "Who do you think you are?" the voice echoed, memories of her neighbor's judgments surfacing like unwelcome weeds. Would she truly belong among these scholars? Or would her past claw its way back into her present, dragging her down? As she entered the lecture hall, Clara felt the weight of dozens of eyes landing on her, each one a potential knife ready to cut her aspirations to shreds. She shuffled to her seat, the realization striking her that every whisper and smirk would loom over her like a silent jury. Doubt manifested as a pressure in her chest, but somewhere deep within, a flicker of determination awaited its moment, waiting to counter the demons of her past. The lecture began, and as the professor spoke with passion about the intricacies of law, Clara's focus sharpened. She took notes diligently, the rhythmic scratching of her pen on paper almost hypnotic. In those moments, amid the sea of anxious uncertainty, she glimpsed the first signs of empowerment, an internal shift where her aspirations began to transform from vague hopes into tangible goals. With each word, she built a fortress of knowledge around herself, designed to shield her from the insecurities threatening to break her. Yet, reality shifted as her progress became apparent. The first assignment was daunting, a legal analysis that would determine her footing in the program. Clara tried to quell her trepidation, but feelings of inadequacy flowed like a torrent, cascading into her thoughts. Was she simply a cleaner pretending to be a student? As she penned her analysis late into the night, Jonathan's voice echoed in her mind, urging her to trust her instincts and hard-won intelligence. Clara pressed her forehead against her fingers, reminding herself that countless hours of work had led her here. These doubts were mere echoes of a past she refused to revisit. Submission day arrived and the tension was palpable. After what felt like an eternity, Clara handed her paper to the professor. The release of that small piece of her soul was liberating. With it, she banished trepidation one word at a time, reclaiming parts of herself she had thought lost forever. However, the external pressures morphed as the first round of grades circulated. Her heart raced with each reveal, the impending reality a tightrope she feared to traverse. She had fought valiantly only to teeter on the edge of acceptance. Each student's score was a dagger thrust into her resolve, bright smiles contrasting with the tightness in her own chest. The following day in class, betrayal thrust its way into her sanctuary. A classmate, sharp as glass, cornered her after the lecture. "Did you really expect to compare to us? You know you're just playing dress-up, right?" The venom in her voice coiled around Clara's thoughts, tightening its grip. At that moment of confrontation, Clara's carefully constructed walls began to wobble. Would she falter in the face of growing hostility? Just as she prepared to retort, a new realization dawned. This wasn't merely about proving others wrong. It was about embracing her journey. She steadied her breath, refusing to allow this moment to define her. "I am not playing dress-up," Clara countered, surprising even herself with the conviction that surfaced. "I am here because I deserve to be." Armed with her newfound resolve, she took a deep breath, preparing for whatever challenges awaited her. The path ahead was uncertain, but she was no longer afraid of those shadows trailing behind her. As Clara walked away, questions flooded her thoughts. Would her confidence hold, or would doubt strike again? And what other battles awaited on this road to reclaiming her destiny? Clara's resolve tugged at the corners of her mind as she moved through the ebb and flow of lectures and discussions. The pressure to solidify her footing in the program only intensified with the arrival of her first group project. A chance to collaborate with classmates became a double-edged sword, exposing the thin veneer of her confidence to the scrutiny of peers. As Clara entered the classroom designated for the project meeting, the air buzzed with chatter. She recognized the cluster of eager faces from earlier lectures, their intellect palpable like a current. Once again, she felt herself adrift in a sea of expectation. Would her contributions resonate, or would they blend into the background noise? "Clara, can you lead the discussion on our topic?" asked a student named Clara, her voice cutting through the din. Though the request seemed innocuous, it ricocheted through Clara, igniting her uncertainty. What if her ideas were too simplistic? What if the others quickly dismissed her input? The eyes of the group shifted toward her, amplifying the weight of their anticipation. Sure, I can do that," Clara replied, her heart thumping against her ribcage. She swallowed hard, aware that she was cornered, yet propelled forward by an insatiable need to be heard. Gathering her notes, she focused on the material, letting her frustration with self-doubt manifest as a fierce determination. This was her chance. As Clara introduced the topic, she found a surprising rhythm. Words flowed from her, weaving together her understanding of principles with personal anecdotes that added clarity. The room shifted from unsure silence to engaged discussion. Each nod from her classmates felt like a tiny victory. She was no longer just a bystander, she was part of something larger, an equal. By the end of the session, Clara couldn't help but notice the faint glimmer of admiration in the eyes around her. They discussed her points with respect, something she had not anticipated. Yet, the shadows of her past lingered just behind her, whispering doubts with every moment of triumph. Was this just a fluke? Am I really one of them? Encouraged by her newfound ability to articulate her thoughts, Clara decided to put herself to the test. She attended office hours for additional support from professors, something she had previously avoided due to anxiety. The walk to the office felt monumental, each step a conscious defiance against the insecurities she desperately sought to escape. When she finally met with Professor Harrington, an esteemed faculty member known for guiding bright minds, she took a deep breath. "I'd love to hear your thoughts on my recent assignment," she said, her voice steadier than expected. The professor's gaze was warm yet analytical, and as she listened and engaged him, Clara felt a flicker of authenticity spark to life. After a constructive conversation filled with insights and encouragement, Clara exited the office buoyed by a sense of agency she hadn't fully recognized until now. The world outside seemed less daunting, the confidence in her step a newfound armor against creeping doubt. However, the illusion of comfort shattered as Clara received an unexpected text later that evening. A group message about their project meeting, where Tara had suggested that Clara take on the role of presenting in front of the entire class. Panic surged through her, the mere thought of standing before everyone again seeming like a severe clash with her identity. Would she rise to the occasion or let the fear of judgment extinguish her spark? The question hung heavily in her mind, and as she debated the answer, she realized she stood at yet another precipice. It was a delicate moment where she could choose to embrace her growth or let old fears reclaim dominion over her spirit. Would she seize the opportunity to showcase her work, or would she retreat into the shadows of her insecurities once more? With a sense of urgency swelling inside her, Clara prepared for the decision that would shape her future. Would she own her place in this new world, or would the voices from her past drown her aspirations yet again? The morning light streamed through Clara's window, illuminating the uncertainty etched on her face. The text message from Tara loomed large in her mind, a stark reminder that she had an opportunity to prove herself. Yet, the flickering doubts clung to her like shadows. Presenting to the entire class felt like standing on a tightrope, swaying precariously between triumph and failure. As she sat at her desk, Clara decided she needed a plan, something to ground her amid the turmoil. She could almost feel her heartbeat echoing the urgency of her decision. The thoughts spiraled. Why not practice? What if her delivery was subpar? Every doubt whispered that preparation was her only shield against potential embarrassment. Grabbing a stack of note cards, Clara carefully outlined the main points she wished to convey. The clarity with which she began to arrange her thoughts replaced some of the trepidation with purpose. She envisioned standing before her peers, articulating her ideas passionately, her voice steady and assured. When she practiced in front of the mirror, she inflected her tone, set her posture, and with every recitation, she could almost taste a hint of confidence blooming. but the walls of her room still closed in on her in moments of vulnerability. With every run-through, the ingrained voice of self-doubt echoed louder, questioning her abilities. What if they laugh? What if they don't understand? It was paralyzing yet oddly familiar. Clara had spent so long battling these internal adversaries, and standing before an audience threatened to resurrect uncertainties she was desperately trying to overcome. That afternoon, amidst the anxious flutter of her stomach, she sought solace in her favorite cafe. Sipping a warm cup of tea, she mentally distanced herself from the looming presentation. Each gentle sip felt like a brief reprieve from the tension. The cozy atmosphere enveloped her, and Clara began to reflect on the conversations she'd had with her peers during their project meeting. They valued her input. Maybe the fear of being dismissed was unfounded. An internal shift occurred, a decision to approach this moment not as a student terrified to be exposed, but as a colleague eager to share her insights. Back in her room, Clara turned off her phone to limit distractions. She read through her notes once more before crafting a new strategy. She would invite questions during her presentation, turning the class into a dialogue rather than a monologue. This approach could dismantle the uneasy atmosphere she had envisioned, fostering an exchange of ideas instead of a solitary performance. The act of engaging her audience was liberating in itself, shifting focus from her fear of judgment to the mutual exploration of knowledge. In her preparations, an adrenaline rush began to stir within, one that hinted at exhilaration rather than anxiety. But just as her spirits lifted, a creeping doubt slithered back in. What would happen if a question stumped her? The lurking anxiety threatened to undermine the preparations she had meticulously crafted. Clara took a deep breath, acknowledging the complexity of her feelings. What if I don't have all the answers? She mused. Acknowledgement, she realized, was a crucial step toward resilience. They did not expect her to be infallible. Learning often blossomed in the spaces of uncertainty. With newfound clarity, Clara returned to her notes but decided to include a few open-ended questions designed to stimulate conversation. In that moment of acceptance, she understood that strength lay not solely in her knowledge, but also in her willingness to engage. Days later, seated in the classroom again, Clara's palms felt clammy as she waited for her turn. The faces of her classmates loomed ahead, the shimmer of their expectations reflecting both fear and potential. Yet, when she stood up, a warmth enveloped her. She had rehearsed this, she had reframed it. Now she just needed to breathe. As she stepped in front of the class and finally opened her mouth to begin, something shifted within her. The moment felt electric, and as she gazed into the audience, she caught the glint of understanding in their eyes. Would she transform her initial fear into an empowering experience, or would complacency drag her back into the shadows? This question surrounded Clara, lingering tantalizingly as she began to speak, and she knew in that moment her journey was only commencing. As Clara's presentation commenced, her mind raced with a mixture of anticipation and resolve. The electric moment unveiled an unexpected level of clarity within her. Each word flowed more effortlessly than she had imagined, and the warmth in her chest blossomed into something akin to belonging. She opened with a point that had previously caused her fear, a question inviting her classmates to share their initial thoughts on her topic. The nervous anticipation that had gnawed at her transformed, instead, into a palpable curiosity, as several hands shot up in the air. This was the moment she had aimed for. As each answer emerged, Clara danced between their responses, allowing their voices to be woven into her narrative. No longer a solitary figure delivering a monologue, she became part of a tapestry of ideas. Her heart steadied, finding rhythm in the flow of dialogue. She could feel the connection building. She was engaged and her audience was with her. Every nod and smile from her peers reignited the spark of confidence she had cultivated through practice. But lurking in the back of her mind was uncertainty, that familiar whisper that taunted her. She had initiated conversation. What if this spontaneity turned against her? The notion of being unprepared for a challenging question started to coil tightly around her thoughts again. It was a perennial battle. Could she quiet it? In the middle of a compelling exchange, A classmate posed a complex inquiry that momentarily stumped her. Clara's heart raced, feelings of vulnerability crashing like waves against her composure. For a brief second, she considered retreating into silence, but instead she inhaled deeply, embracing the discomfort. "I don't have all the answers right now," she declared, her voice steady despite the tremors within. "But let's explore this together." As she spoke, the tone of her voice transformed into an instrument of inclusivity, inviting further dialogue rather than retreating into insecurity. The engagement that followed was exhilarating. Ideas ricocheted around the room, sparked by the fusion of different perspectives. Clara felt a weight lift, realizing that her vulnerability had catalyzed deeper conversations. The fear of not knowing had morphed into an exploration of knowledge that united their curiosities. As the presentation neared its conclusion, Clara's outlook had shifted entirely. The journey from fear to empowerment had unveiled a part of herself she hadn't known existed, a professional persona who thrived on collaboration and mutual understanding. However, as she wrapped up, the exhilarating victory in the classroom also birthed a new question inside her. What would her newfound confidence mean for her future? Once again, Clara found herself reflecting deeply. Would she take this boldness beyond her classroom walls? The idea of seizing opportunities, perhaps engaging in internships, joining clubs, or tackling projects, invigorated her spirit. Yet, with every leap forward came a shadow, lingering doubts whispering that she might falter again. As the class concluded, her classmates echoed their appreciation with applause, and Clara beamed. She had captured the moment, yet more importantly, she had captured herself. But the questions remained. How would she channel this experience into her next steps? The bell rang, signaling an end but curiously feeling more like a beginning. With newfound determination, Clara exited the classroom, her mind racing. The world outside felt anew, ripe with potential. What awaited her at the other end of this moment? A chance encounter, an unexpected connection, or a pivotal opportunity? Each step she took danced with possibility, and as she crossed the threshold into the bustling corridor, Clara resolved that this was merely the first chapter of her rediscovered journey. What lay ahead would test every ounce of her newfound resolve, but she was ready to confront it head-on. And amidst the noise of the crowd, a text notification blinked on her phone. "Hey Clara, a unique opportunity just opened up. Let's discuss." Clara's heart skipped a beat as she stared at the text message lighting up her phone screen. The words blurred momentarily as her mind raced. Who could it be? What unique opportunity awaited her? Was this merely a fleeting chance, or a pivotal moment demanding her participation? Driven by curiosity, she swiped to open the message. It was from Anthony, a senior she had met at her university's open forum a few weeks prior. His energy had been contagious, his ambition contagious, a stark contrast to her own insecurities. They had talked briefly about her plans and dreams, but this invitation felt like a portal to something unexpected. "Meet me at Java Junction after class. I promise it'll be worth your while," it continued. Clara's gut tightened with a peculiar mix of anticipation and anxiety. She glanced at the clock, mind racing. Laura Junction was a popular cafe, bustling with students seeking both caffeine and camaraderie. It would be a perfect stage for whatever Anthony had in mind. But what if she didn't belong there? That unsettling whisper in the back of her mind crept in again, suggesting that she might not fit into whichever ambitious plans Anthony had. "Stop," she admonished herself softly, grounding her thoughts. She had just embraced vulnerability in front of her classmates. Surely she could extend that lesson to this moment. Drawing a deep breath, she resolved to challenge the fear that gripped her. The walk to the cafe was a whirlwind of electric thoughts. Since her presentation, the possibilities had seemed endless, yet they were laced with a fear of getting lost in the shadows once more. What if this meeting unraveled her recently built confidence? What if it exposed her insecurities? But with every step she could feel the pulse of her determination igniting. Each stride was a reminder that she was no longer that timid student. She was ready for growth. As she entered Java Junction, the air filled with rich aromas and muted chatter, Clara paused. The vibe was lively yet inviting, It contrasted sharply with the turmoil building inside her. She spotted Anthony at a corner table, a small half-smirk hinting at their earlier conversation. "Hey, Clara!" He waved her over with an enthusiasm that seemed contagious. She approached, her heart flickering between excitement and self-doubt. "Thanks for coming," he said, gesturing to an empty seat. "I've been meaning to speak with you about an internship opening that's come up. My company's looking for fresh ideas and I thought you'd be a great fit." The words hung in the air, an unexpected lifeline that ignited both hope and apprehension within Clara. As they discussed the details, she could feel a spark of inspiration igniting her. The prospect sounded stimulating, yet the shadows of doubt lingering in her brain began to whisper again. Would she be adequate? Could she contribute significantly? Did she have the prowess that the position demanded? Without thinking, she voiced her uncertainties. "But what if I'm not ready for something like this? What if I flop under pressure?" Anthony leaned forward, his expression earnest. "This is about you stepping into your power. Every experience is a chance to learn. Remember, I saw you present. You have something unique to offer." His encouragement pooled courage within her. Still, a subtle inner resistance flared. Was she truly ready to grasp for something so ambitious, so potentially transformative? "Let me think about it," she replied, a cautious edge creeping into her voice. As they continued to chat, Clara felt the internal shifts occurring. She began to recognize the fire within. The lingering hesitation was there, certainly, but her curiosity overshadowed it. She wasn't just contemplating an internship. She was standing at a crossroads of her personal evolution. By the time Clara left Java Junction, she could feel the world pulsating with new potential. There lingered a question. Would she dare to leap into this path Anthony had laid before her? Stepping onto the sidewalk, with the autumn breeze fluttering around her, she knew she had to decide whether to hold back or rise into the experience awaiting her. A new message blinked on her phone as if to punctuate this revelation. "The meeting is next week. Make your choice." What awaited her on the other side of that decision? Clara sank into her chair the next morning with the weight of the world pressing down on her. The urgency of Anthony's last message lingered, an echo in her mind. "Make your choice." She stared at her laptop, the blinking cursor on the blank document mirroring her swirling thoughts. Was this the moment to harness her potential, or would she let the opportunity slip away like so many before? With a tentative breath, she pushed aside the doubt that gnawed at her. The prospect of that internship had stirred something deep inside, a whisper of ambition she had long buried beneath layers of self-doubt. But would aspiring to shine at a company mean risking failure? A part of her wrestled with the notion of stepping into unfamiliar territory, yearning for safety while yearning to soar. She glanced out the window, watching the campus buzz with activity. Students shuffled by, some laughing, others engrossed in conversations about classes and projects. The fleeting moments of connection outside the glass felt like a reminder of what was possible, sparked by bravery. Taking the leap into the unknown could redefine her existence. It could elevate her from mere observer to active participant in her own life. Clara returned her attention to the document on her screen and typed, "Research the company." The plan started to take form. The idea of diving deep into their values, mission, and recent projects gave her a sense of control. Empowerment came from knowledge. Perhaps this internship could be the start of something great, not just for her resume, but for her self-perception. Days passed and her excitement mingled with trepidation as she prepared for the meeting at the company. Each time she practiced her pitch in front of the mirror, a new layer of confidence blossomed within her. She intentionally dressed more professionally, recognizing the importance of reflecting the ambition she sought to embody. As she laced up her shoes that morning, she felt like she was gearing up for a battle, one that required her to vanquish the specters of insecurity that had haunted her for so long. The cafe where Anthony had suggested meeting felt almost sacred now, a potential launch pad for her future. She found him seated at a table, flipping through a notebook filled with notes. "Clara, you made it," he said, looking up with that infectious enthusiasm that had initially drawn her in. "Thanks for inviting me," she replied, trying to match his energy as nervous adrenaline pulsed through her veins. Anthony swiftly shifted into a professional mode, outlining the company's vision and discussing their thirst for innovation. Clara soaked in every word, eager to contribute and validate her existence as a competent candidate. "So, what do you think you can bring to our team?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. It was her moment, the spotlight showing no signs of dimming. Clara took a breath, channeling the confidence she had developed over the past few days. "I believe my unique perspective as a student fresh out of academia can offer novel insights. I'm curious and eager to learn, but also ready to challenge existing frameworks by integrating fresh ideas." A flicker of surprise crossed Anthony's face, soon replaced by admiration. "That's exactly the kind of mindset we're looking for." As they discussed specifics, Clara's mind raced with possibilities, each idea contributing to her sense of escalating self-worth. However, lingering doubts still crept back. Could she sustain this momentum? Would her earlier insecurities resurface once the real work began? "Remember," Anthony interjected, sensing her hesitation, "everyone starts somewhere, even in this fast-paced environment. Embrace your imperfections. They will guide your growth." With those words, Clara felt a surge of clarity. It wasn't about perfection. It was about participation, exploration, and evolution. For the first time, she understood that every misstep along the way was just an integral part of her journey, a necessary calibration in her quest for growth. The meeting ended, but her heart still raced with possibilities. Sitting in her car afterward, she contemplated the very real choice ahead of her. Would she sign on for the internship decision? Could she step into the next chapter of her life? As uncertainty loomed before her, another message buzzed on her phone, illuminating the darkness. "Our team is eager to hear your final thoughts. Let's make this happen." This was it. Clara felt her pulse quicken as she faced a decision that would echo through her future. Would she embrace the opportunity, or let fear dictate her path forward? Clara's heart pounded as she stared at her phone, the words, "Let's make this happen," dancing before her like a mirage. The weight of her decision pressed down on her shoulders, each second ticking away like an impending countdown. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, feeling its coolness under her palms, a grounding contrast to the chaos swirling in her mind. "Can I really do this?" she whispered, the realization dawning heavy upon her. This prospect went beyond an internship. It was the very foundation of her future, a step into a world where she could finally break free of the shackles of self-doubt. With a deep breath, she turned her gaze back to the cafe window, watching the world pass by outside. This time, it was more than just a backdrop. It was a scene brimming with potential and opportunity. She envisioned herself among those confident, engaged students, discussing ideas and ambitions rather than being a silent observer. In that moment, Clara made a choice. With shaky fingers, she typed a reply. "Yes, I'm ready to embrace this opportunity." Hitting send felt like opening a door she had been afraid to even touch. As the day unfolded, Clara immersed herself in the whirlwind of pre-internship tasks. She began arranging her thoughts and researching current market trends related to the industry. The more she engaged, the more she discovered a passion igniting within her. She formulated questions bouncing in her mind, envisioning how her ideas could challenge the status quo, infusing them with freshness and innovation. But amidst the rising tide of enthusiasm, shadows of doubt still loomed. Sitting in her small apartment that evening, she flipped through notes in her notebook, breathing in the sometimes overwhelming mixture of excitement and fear that clutched at her chest. "What if I don't meet expectations?" she mused, biting her lip. "What if I fail?" The flickering light of her desk lamp illuminated a collection of motivational quotes she had tucked away, but it felt different this time. Instead of aiming only to inspire, she began to see them as reflections of her evolving mindset. Clara found herself drawn to one in particular. "A voyage of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." The phrase resonated as she reconsidered her past. How many chances had she let slip away, paralyzed by indecision? What if this was the first step toward something radically transformational, a new narrative she could craft for herself? Closing her eyes, she pictured herself at the company, speaking up during meetings, brainstorming alongside energetic colleagues, daring to share her unconventional thoughts. A thrilling notion began to replace her insecurity. She wasn't just an intern, she was a contributor, an innovator, someone who could genuinely make a difference. Yet the anticipation was nearly overshadowed by the memory of her earlier self-doubt. "Am I truly ready?" she questioned, the inner critic rising with full force. It felt like preparing for an exam for which she hadn't studied enough. The following morning came quickly, and Clara found herself standing in front of her closet. She scanned the array of clothes, aiming to embody the confident persona she had just begun to conceive. Grabbing her blazer, she layered it over her shirt, feeling its weight, a physical reminder of the professional identity she was determined to forge. When she arrived at the company, her pulse quickened again, not from fear but from the anticipation of being part of something greater than herself. Entering the bustling office, a surge of energy filled the air, laughter and collaboration intermingling in a creative cocktail that spurred her imagination. A wave of excitement coursed through Clara, stirring a determination that silenced the unease inside. This was her moment to seize, to demonstrate that she was ready not just to participate, but to thrive. As she settled into her workspace for the first time, Clara glimpsed a group gathered around a whiteboard brainstorming ideas. The urge to join them swelled within her, challenging her to act. Her initial instinct was to hang back, to watch and learn from a distance, but something shifted deep inside her. She could contribute. This was precisely the space where she belonged. Clara took a step forward, but just as she was about to engage, her phone buzzed again, drawing her attention. It was a message from Anthony. "Now that you're in, are you ready to face the real challenge? Your first project awaits, and it won't be a walk in the park." An unexpected wave of anxiety hit her. What did he mean by challenge? Would she now be faced with the kind of pressure that crushed her spirit in the past? Something told Clara this was only the beginning. She would need to summon every ounce of courage she had cultivated to navigate the intricacies of this new role, and prove herself in ways she had yet to comprehend. With the enticing yet daunting prospects ahead, she wondered, was she truly prepared for what lay beyond this door? Clara's fingers trembled slightly as she read the message from Anthony a second time, her pulse quickening with each word. The implication of his text weighed heavily on her. The bravado she had felt moments ago began to wane, replaced by a creeping sense of doubt. Would this project be an intricate puzzle that required more than she was capable of solving? As she squared her shoulders, preparing to engage with her new environment, she caught the inquiring eyes of the group near the whiteboard. They were deep in discussion, their animated gestures illustrating the flow of ideas. A pit formed in her stomach, and for a moment she hesitated. But the determination she felt earlier surged back, a reminder of why she was here. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. This whisper turned into a mantra that helped her step toward the group. Each stride felt heavier, yet filled with intent, threading her resolve through the air like a lifeline. "Hey, do you mind if I join?" Clara's voice rang out, surprising her with its steadiness. "Of course. We were just brainstorming ideas for the upcoming campaign," one of the members replied, an invitation shimmering in her tone. Clara blinked, noting how natural the invitation felt, like a door swinging open. As she approached the whiteboard, Clara felt a rush of electricity course through her. Seeing ideas laid bare, ripe for discussion, she felt her confidence begin to blossom. The phrases "fresh perspective" and "innovative approach" danced in her mind as her ideas began to flow. It was as if her earlier fears dissipated like mist. "What if we reimagined this concept entirely?" she offered, her voice gaining strength as she witnessed the shift in the group's energy. "Imagine a campaign that engages our audience on a personal level through storytelling, rather than just a product pitch." Heads nodded, murmurs of agreement filled the air, and she felt her heart swell. She was igniting creativity rather than just observing it. Each shared glance ignited a fire inside her. This was the collaboration she had hoped to find. However, buried beneath this excitement lingered a specter of her prior insecurities. What if this project proved insurmountable? What if the spark she felt was merely a facade over looming inadequacy? Clara snapped her attention back to the task at hand, dismissing the dark clouds that threatened to shroud her newfound motivation. Minutes turned into an hour, and like a symphony building to a crescendo, the ideas pulsed and evolved. It was exhilarating to contribute, yet Clara's underlying anxiety lurked. There hadn't been a conversation about her specific role in the project. When the group wrapped up, a buzz of energy remained. People began to peel away, their minds turning back to the day's tasks, but Clara remained, feeling a compelling urge to address her anxious thoughts with Anthony. She sought clarity on his message, needing insight into what the real challenge ahead entailed. Tracking down Anthony felt daunting, but as she navigated the office, she realized how the distractions of her earlier fears began melting away. No longer was she the outsider, shying away from meaningful discourse. Clara was becoming an integral part of the fabric around her. Finally, she found him engrossed in a conversation with another senior colleague. Clearing her throat, she stepped closer, awareness surging inside her. The confrontation was not intimidating. It was an opportunity. "Anthony, could I have a moment?" she asked, a calm determination threading through her voice. He turned, his expression shifting as he acknowledged her. "Sure, Clara. What's on your mind?" As they stepped aside, Clara took a deep breath. "You mentioned a project. What should I prepare for? Is it something I should be worried about?" Anthony leaned against the wall, a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. "This is where you truly find your footing. It reveals more than just technical skills. It's about how you adapt and tackle unforeseen challenges. I have every faith in your ability." His encouragement struck a chord deep within her. The idea of this project, her project, being a testament to her growth, ignited a thrilling urgency. It wasn't just about meeting expectations, it was about proving to herself that she had the power to exceed them. Clara's resolve solidified, her heart racing with the exhilarating prospect of her journey ahead. All at once, she realized that this wasn't merely about survival. It was an invitation to thrive in ways she hadn't dared imagine. And as their conversation wrapped up, an idea rooted itself deep in her mind. Perhaps the real challenge would reveal aspects of herself that had been dormant, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The taste of potential hung in the air, tantalizing and just out of reach. But what would happen when she faced the first hurdle head-on? Would she rise to the occasion? Or would the familiar voice of self-doubt steal that opportunity away? Clara stood at the threshold of her first major project. Exhilaration mingled with trepidation coursing through her veins. The sense of purpose that had propelled her this far ignited once more, but the shadows of her past insecurities flared. This was it, the moment she had prepared for, where ambition met opportunity. A crucial presentation awaited her, the culmination of her hard work and fresh perspective, all examined under the scrutiny of seasoned professionals. Each day was a race against self-doubt. Clara had dived deep into the project, conducting extensive research and synthesizing innovative concepts into a compelling narrative. She meticulously collaborated with her team, learning to navigate their dynamics while asserting her unique voice. Still, memories of her past self whispered insidiously. What if they see you as a fraud, just a cleaner who got lucky? But Clara held the truth of her transformation close. She had conquered countless hurdles to arrive here, embracing her aspirations head-on. She wasn't merely existing among her peers. She belonged. As her day of reckoning approached, Clara's heartbeat quickened with anticipation. She spent the night before running through her presentation, refining every slide, ensuring clarity, and harnessing statistics to bolster her arguments. Then she drifted to sleep, visions of success fleeting past her closed eyelids. The following morning, a veil of optimism draped over her as she donned her professional attire. The reflection in the mirror revealed more than a cleaner-turned-student. She saw a confident woman prepared to challenge herself in the boardroom. Arriving at the conference room, Clara surveyed the atmosphere. Colleagues settled into their seats, chatting amicably, blissfully unaware of the storm raging within her. Yet in this once dreaded space, she felt a flicker of confidence ignite. The whispers of self-doubt receded, This was her moment to shine and prove not just to others but to herself that she deserved to be there. Anthony arrived, anchoring Clara in the present, his reassuring presence a steadying force as the meeting began. Clara took a deep breath, grounding herself, focusing on the task ahead. "All right, everyone, let's hear Clara's presentation," Anthony announced. The spotlight shifted. All eyes turned to her. Clara felt the weight of her past, the opinions, the judging stares. But with them came the resolute knowledge that she had earned this moment. As she launched into her presentation, the words poured forth with clarity, woven together by the threads of her experiences and vibrant insights. Clara spoke with conviction about the campaign's design, bridging her academic learning with practical application. The room filled with animated nods and thoughtful expressions, enhancing her momentum. Yet mid-flow, a question flew from one of her colleagues, challenging the very foundation of her concept. Clara paused, the familiar flutter of anxiety nudging at her. What if they don't see its value? What if I can't defend my ideas? Taking a steadying breath, she focused on the inquiry instead. "That's a great point," she replied, her voice steady. "And it's worth exploring." Clara embraced the hesitance, shaping her response into a dialogue rather than a defensive stance, showcasing her ability to adapt and think on her feet. The discussion blossomed into a collaborative exchange, each participant contributing to the evolution of the idea. The tension transformed into productivity, the once daunting questions reshaping into opportunities for illuminating insight. Here, amid this collaborative dynamic, Clara felt a sense of belonging solidify. She was no longer an outsider looking in. And then, the moment arrived. A resounding round of applause echoed through the conference room as Clara concluded her presentation. The warmth of appreciation washed over her, laced with validation she had once deemed unattainable. "Excellent work, Clara," Anthony chimed in with pride radiating from him. That was a refreshing perspective. In that powerful affirmation, Clara realized the depths of her growth. The barriers of self-doubt she had dismantled, the confidence she had cultivated were now validated by her peers. She wasn't merely contributing, she was thriving. Days passed after the presentation, and Clara's name started circulating within the company. The project had garnered attention, and her approach prompted discussions in strategic meetings. Clara found herself invited to share insights with senior executives, fulfilling her role as an emerging voice within the organization. It was during one of these discussions that Clara articulated a bold new initiative, weaving her personal experiences into professional discourse. In a room full of seasoned experts, she felt surprisingly at ease. Was this the same girl who had once been paralyzed by judgment? No, this was the transformed Clara, equipped, resilient, and resolute. With every interaction, Clara felt the shackles of her past fall away. Every new challenge she faced was met with an anticipation rather than apprehension. The pressing question of her worth melted away, replaced with a vivid sense of competence. And so Clara ascended to new heights, culminating in her first client pitch, where she led a team with poise and creativity. As she spoke confidently before a significant audience, a sense of fulfillment radiated through her. She had proven to herself that she could not only represent her ideas but could also advocate passionately for her vision. With that presentation behind her, the accolades began flooding in, a transformative affirmation of her journey. Clara secured a full-time position following her internship, a testament to her merit, her ambition, and her resilience. As she embraced her new role, she reflected on her journey, an odyssey from a cleaner brimming with aspirations to a recognized professional carving a space for herself in a competitive world. Her journey would forever remind her that self-belief is the most powerful catalyst for success. Now, Clara walked unabashedly into her future, ready to conquer new challenges while nurturing the roots of her resilience, an embodiment of what it meant to rise proudly from uncertainty into unwavering self-confidence. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of these actions.